All right, we are live, everybody. Howdy. God bless everybody. Thanks for joining me, guys. Wendell, Ricky, you both been on with me before. Barry Webster may be along later, depending on if his babysitter gets home in time. Told him feel free, or I may have to reschedule with him. I was really looking forward to his input. But anyway, before we get started, I want to say something about being Memorial Day weekend. So it's about a lot more than swimming pools and barbecues.
That's right.
It ain't just hot dogs and Kool-Aid. There's a lot of good men, women from all over the country, all over the world that gave it all. And we may never knew them. We can't thank them in person, but we can thank them in memory. And I've always said that the first veteran that really laid his life down and sacrificed himself for us was Jesus, because we was in a war and didn't even know it. And he didn't take a bullet for us, but he took a nail for us. And the funny part is, I'm sure when the world and the devil nailed him to that cross, they thought they won. What they didn't realize, it was all part of God's plan. They walked right into it. When Jesus come out of that tomb, he had them right where he wanted them. And I imagine his second stop was he kicked the gates of hell open, looked at the devil and said, "Hand me the keys, it ain't up to you no more." I'd like to see the devil's face when that happened.
Yep.
So that's just, like I said, I just want to do that short little, get that off my chest about Memorial Day, because I honestly believe the devil fought me over this show tonight with Mom not feeling good this morning and stuff, not knowing if I was going to be able to do it. I told Mom, I said, well, this is fellowship. It's witnessing. And the devil don't want people on Facebook or YouTube or who knows how many people might see us. He don't want that. I said, but I ain't going to let him. He don't know me too well. I ain't going to let him stop me. So I prayed about it and proceeded on.
That's what to do.
Well, I'm glad we're all here. Hopefully maybe Mr. Webster gets to join us later. I titled the show tonight, The Native American Christian Sasquatch Connection. How all three kind of tie together. And me and Wendell have been looking into the troglodytes, Ricky. I think I sent you a link about them too a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're in the Bible, and Greek and Roman society both spoke about them. They were like a subterranean bestial tribe that lived around Mesopotamia. It talks about they could run faster than any horse. They said they lived in caves and lived off of lizards and bats and stuff like that. And I ain't never been able to find a real good description of them yet, as far as size or appearance, other than bestial.
Yep.
But everything else about them kind of fits the bill. Everybody else goes on about the Nephilim and fallen angels and all that. And I got looking in the Bible, I was like, well, this is actually a closer match than the Nephilim, from everything I can understand. And Wendell found more on it than I did, if he wants to tell you about it.
Well, the troglodytes lived in, like you said, in caves and stuff like that. They were type of animalistic race. They leaned everything towards the natural abilities, and they were stronger. Like you said, that it calls them that they're a beast. Well, I don't know. That sure fits the bill of a lot of the Bigfoot sightings. Then if you trace on down the genealogy and everything, where I get into the discussion was Esau. One of his wives was one of these troglodytes, they're also known as, I don't know, I can't really pronounce that name. It's Hivite, Hivite. But anyway, one of his wives was one of these, and it says that Esau was a man of the wilderness, and he was excellently skilled in taking game. But it don't says that it don't say that he was used any equipment. So then it goes on to say that he went to Mount Seir and lived in the mountain. Well, there you go. Back to the cave deal and dwellings again.
Hey, boys, on it. Don't take a minute here to introduce y'all to my offspring. This is my son Scotty. Scotty, this is Barry and Wendell.
Nice to meet you guys.
Hey,
Scotty, I've got him about halfway convinced that Bigfoot's real.
I don't know about real. I know there's something. I don't know what he is. He might be a big old ape, man. He's definitely something.
well, that's me. I'm past the point of trying to prove to people he does exist. I'm the point I'm trying to figure out what he is and how he does some of the things he does. I mean, I know he's
Yeah, some of the
real.
things that he does.
I'm completely past that point.
I'm going.
Okay, I love you, son. Bye bye.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, take it easy.
Go ahead, Wendell. You was talking about when he moved to the mountain there.
Well, yeah, it just goes on to say that he when he went to Mount Seir, he lived in the mountain. Doesn't say that he lived on the mountain or around it or camped there. It says he actually lived in the mountain. So that points back to the Bigfoot being cave dwellers and able to move around and from the talk that they're kind of animalistic, they use everything in their environment. They travel on the creeks. When they do have cave systems, they use them to move around without being seen. And even in what we found, nowadays they're actually using the big power line right of ways to move. I've had several, at least here in Arkansas, I'm getting reports from the companies that go out and trim the actual power lines
Yeah,
as seeing
power
them along
cuts.
the power lines. Yeah, yeah. I've tried to get some of them to get on camera. That's the tough part. They're like, "No, I ain't getting on camera and telling them about it, but I'll
No,
tell you about it."
Yeah,
that's the hard
that
part with witnesses. Period.
yeah. Believe me.
I've even offered to just do an audio recording and let them record their story. Oh no, 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 no.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, one of the best witnesses I've interviewed, so I didn't really interview her, just talked to her. Friend of mom's who her family had these things basically two, maybe three generations of interaction with them. She wasn't having none of it being recorded visually or audio.
yeah, it's tough.
And it was another instance of some of the little stuff her and her mom talked about happening around their place. Now, a lot of people say this was subliminal suggestion or whatever. But after we knew what to look for, me and mom noticed the same things going on around here. For example, the older lady said she used to put mostly empty pop cans in the trash out behind the house. When she'd go out and there'd be a trail of them leading down to the tree line, set back up like something had just been drinking at them, like me or you would, and set them down going down through there. Well, here
Guys,
about a week and a half. What's that?
I'm gonna tell you. Go on my Facebook on Northwest Georgia Cryptics and check out the pictures that Mr. Zeus Flats sent me from Western Slope Bigfoot. Now he's got them posted on the website. Go in there and check them out. He shows where he ran across a group of probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 of what they call the aspens trees out there, where these things have actually been twisted completely off the stumps. Now, not cut, not chipped. These things have actually, like 30, 40 foot trees have been twisted completely off the stump, and it actually shows the twist in them and where they've been stacked up on one another. Go in there and check that out.
I'll have to look at that.
I'll have to look
But
at
what I was
it.
going to say about the pop cans,
Yeah,
it was 2 or 3 years ago that lady told me and mom about that. Well, here about a week and a half ago, mom goes out. Something's been in the trash, and right out from the deck in the yard, 2 Mountain Dew cans sitting side by side. Just like somebody like me or you would.
Turned them up and set them down.
Yeah. She told me about it. I kind of looked at her. I started grinning. I was like, you remember what that old lady told it. The mother has passed away now. Her mother or her daughter, who's friends with my mom, is still around, but the mother passed away just this last year. I was like, you remember what her mama told us about the pop cans? Well, now it's happening here. And that's the kind of thing that really makes you stop and go, when you hear it from somebody else, and then 2 years later it starts happening around your house.
Well, guys, I interviewed a guy this past Wednesday night. I don't know if y'all boys got the kids' show or not, but he was a guy out of Missouri. Actually works with the BFRO, and he was telling
I
me
call
that
part of it. You're talking about Carter
yeah,
Bastard or
Carter
whatever his.
Michelle,
Yeah.
Carter, he's written 2 books. Well, on his second book, he's got this forked tree limb that he found on his last expedition up in Illinois. Okay, he explained to Blake and I that he had took a group of 4 people out that night, himself and his hunting partner. Well, his hunting partner wasn't feeling well, and he had stayed at the vehicle. Okay, Carter said he went down the next morning to gather his trail cams up, and this piece of log was laying there. It had one rock, a big rock laying on it that represented him. Out from it, about 2 inches, it had the other 4 smaller rocks, and then over at the end of this piece of wood, up about maybe 2 foot, it had one more rock for his partner that had stayed at the truck. Now, guys, if these things are just dumb animals out running around the woods, how do they know to represent stuff like this?
They ain't just wild animals or an ape. I mean, they may have ape tendencies and look kind of like an ape, but they're highly more intelligent. So
Yeah. I've always said if they're just a dumb monkey, they're making monkeys out of us, because why don't we have one in the zoo right next to the gorillas and chimpanzees?
Amen to that, because I'll tell you, man, that's the way I look at it, Barry.
Yeah.
yep.
Well, back to the biblical connection, I was thinking the other day, it says that before the end times, it'll be as like the days of Noah again. And right in Genesis 6, it says that they were giants in the days of Noah and afterwards. So there you go. I mean, there's a passage from Genesis. It was written, that'd be more than 2,000 years ago from Genesis. Here we are in 2020, and it's coming true. I mean, that's just the beginning of the things in the Bible. If you look around you, are coming true. All you got to do is turn the news on every day. You'll see it fulfilling itself.
Oh, yeah, it is every day.
I know people call me yeah. What's that?
I mean, guys, if you read the Bible, it tells in there that in the last days that man will search the skies for, well, just like the weathermen do every day.
Yeah.
Every day they're trying, they tell, they try to forecast, as they call it. They get on there and they'll tell what's going to happen a week in advance or 10 days in advance. And the Bible tells you that these signs are going to come true. And it does. It's fulfilling itself every day.
Right.
Well, everybody calls me a conspiracy nut and a religious nut and all that. And I was like, well, all the nuts were nuts until they were right.
Yep.
Everybody laughed at Noah until it started raining.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at that, and it talks about before the end of times there'll be sights seen and wonders. Young men will have visions and old men will have dreams, or maybe it's vice versa. I can't remember exactly. I know it's in there. Well, I mean, the news gets crazier and crazier every day. I mean, Bigfoot's pretty tame compared to some of the other stuff people report seeing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well, you
look at
know,
our government all of a sudden admitting UFOs are real.
Yeah, ain't the rest of that file post come out in June? Where it's
June 25th or something, I think, like that.
June something. It's declassified. They've let little bits. Somebody leaked little bits of it and everything where they're saying they had an incident with this UFO and that one, but I think it's June. Yeah, when they're going to release. That'd be interesting to see what they do release.
well, guys, the government's already come out and basically they've just come right out and told us, yeah, that you know, and I've been, you know, and I've known that they this project Blue Book, that thing goes back from the 1940s all the way into present day. They said they shut it down a few years ago. They still got that thing running. They may call it a different name nowadays, but they're still tracking UFOs. They know they exist. They know we've had interactions with them, or our government has. That people here every day is having interactions with them, and it's the same way with Sasquatch. And why they won't release what they know about Sasquatch is beyond me. You know, it's the money behind the trail is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so much convinced it's money anymore. Money might be part of it, but even on a bigger scale, just suppose for right for a second that people like me and Wendell are right, and there's a biblical connection. Okay, you bet Bigfoot's real. Bigfoot's got a connection to the Bible. Well, then you just prove the Bible's real too. And that's going
Well,
to upset a whole lot of people. Just like if the opposite, if they proved it was Gigantopithecus, just a big dumb ape, well, you just proved evolution. That's going to upset either way, either side of the fence it falls on, you're going to upset a lot of people.
well, it still goes back to the money. There, basically, what the government's worried about is the big timber companies, all your sporting good companies, everything. If they was to come out today and say, look, these creatures exist, they're out there in your wilderness. If you go out there, you're putting yourself in an own chance of getting of coming into contact with these things. Well, who in the world is going to go out there, spend hundreds of dollars for camping equipment, for license fees to go out in the wilderness, knowing that this thing is real, it's out there, and it could kill them?
Well, as far as the lumber companies, I mean, a few years back they had that spotted owl or whatever it was, some kind of owl they found up there in the Northwest. And it slowed them down for a few months, but they found a way around it. Now, personally, I think the government would just round them up, stick them on a reservation or in a zoo, if they could. Just
That's
like they did the
yeah.
Native Americans when we expanded west, you know. We wanted their land, so we shystered them out of it. Now, I don't know if you can shyster a Sasquatch, but if the government was capable, I believe they'd just round them up and stick them in a reservation or the zoo,
That's just
get them out
it,
of the
guys.
way, and that would be the
The
end of it.
government knows that these creatures possess knowledge and possess powers beyond what they can control. And if they can't control it, they're going to keep it buried as long as they can.
They keep it buried, and when they do surface and get some that's out of control, they eliminate them. And
Yeah.
That's it.
it takes a lot of force to eliminate them. On top of that, but I mean, they do get it done. Any of them that's out of control in an area, or they do relocate it, one or the other, and they move them to these national parks that's out of the way, and they either get placed back there or they get eliminated. That's the two choices that occur when one of these gets out of hand.
All right, guys, I don't know if y'all have heard of the deal that happened in the Smoky Mountains in 1968. Uh, young boy Dennis Martin
Oh
was
yeah.
abducted was abducted there in the park. Okay, they sent the Green Beret in up there with helicopters, with all kind of equipment. They had all types of park personnel in up there. They had the police in up there. They had state police up there. Okay, standing orders, they say, with the Green Beret, they had no contact with the other officials that was in that park for the whole time they was up there, 2 weeks. They only maneuvered at night. When their maneuvers was done in 2 weeks, there was flatbed trucks brought in there. There was things loaded on these flatbed trucks and tarped off to where nobody couldn't see what they was. They was brought out in the dead of night, and as soon as this operation was through, they was pulled out and never had any contact with any other official personnel that was up there. So now you tell me what they was doing. I think they was doing just like you say, Wendell. I think they was up there eliminating the problem, and when they got it eliminated, or what they thought they got eliminated of it, they pulled out.
Yep.
It's a possibility. I know David Pilates, he's got that case in one of his books, the Dennis Martin case. I've read it 2 or 3 times. And the only connection they made with Sasquatch was a couple that was camping claimed to see something or someone with what looked like a smaller figure slung over its shoulder running along a ridge. And that was the
Right, but
only.
that was the Keys family, Burry, and they described this thing as being a tall, hulking figure covered in hair, and it had what looked like a green sack or a green piece of clothing thrown over its shoulder.
Yeah. Like I said,
Now you
I've
tell,
read the report 2 or 3 times from David Pilates' book.
okay, it goes further than that. There was a guy that's on YouTube. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's got 3 or 4 different uh, tapes on YouTube uh, where he talked about that when President Roosevelt first opened the park up there, uh, about a month before he actually done the ceremony to open the park, he said that his family was approached by the federal government, agents of the federal government, and was hired to go in and eliminate what they called these wild men that was living in the woods up there and in them mountains. And he said that his family members went up there and killed a bunch of these creatures, and the government had trucks come in there and haul them out. And this is before Dennis Martin was ever abducted.
Well, I've heard several stories like that where the government come in and black trucks and guys in black suits. Was it you, Wendell? I was telling them about the lady that was one step above a veterinarian, some kind of animal specialist. She got a call that a bear had been hit on the highway.
Oh yeah.
Well, her husband go out there. It might have been Ricky, I was telling. I can't remember.
No, you was telling me.
Her and her husband go out there, and the second they get out of their vehicle, that ain't no bear. So they help get this thing sedated. Big black truck with a flatbed pulls up. Guys in black sedans get out. They load it on the military comes with them. They load it on the truck. Next day, she calls back to the police station that supposedly called her. We didn't call you. Didn't nothing get hit on the highway. She said they drove back out there. You could see that the highway had been washed off and scrubbed along the sides of it, where you wouldn't find a hair or a blood sample or anything. I mean, there's all kinds of stories like you're talking about cover-ups. Mount St. Helens when they wrote it.
My brother-in-law that passed away in January this past year from COVID worked for the Federal Forestry Service for over 40 years, probably close to 50 years. In 1988, the big fire out in Yellowstone National Park, he was part of it. He was sent out there with a 10-man crew to fight this fire. They came across a body back in those mountains about 70, 80 miles, he said, from Old Faithful Inn. He didn't know what it was. Didn't nobody on his crew know what it was. He got on the radio. He radioed his boss. He said probably 45 minutes to an hour later, those guys come in helicopters, landed about a mile from where they were at. They were sent up there. This thing was put in a huge body bag, tarp, whatever, brought back out, and the guys told him and his whole crew, y'all guys never saw nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of incidences that's happened like that, and they just get swept under the rug, and they tell them you didn't see nothing, and go about your business.
Well,
Well,
it's,
that's what
it's
I'm
not
saying,
what you
guys.
know, it's what you can prove.
That's it. But that's what I'm saying, guys. That's where it goes back to the money trail. If it wasn't for big money, they would admit that these things are real.
And
It's the whole. It's the,
it goes back to the government or forces that be want to say they're in control, and that they are in control of everything here in America and around the world. But these things, they ain't gonna control them, and they hadn't controlled them. So the only way it is, like we said, is to eliminate them, and they don't want to let us know that they're there because that would lose the control. I mean, it would cause a fright and panic in all the population, and we just understand that hey, the government ain't in control of what it says it is. At least that's my thoughts on it.
well, and you may be exactly right. That may be what the whole deal boils down to.
Well, the control thing goes back to what I was talking about having to admit something they may not want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Bible being real. And in the Bible, it talks about heaven and hell. And these other people talk about it being interdimensional creatures. Well, heaven and hell ain't here on earth. Are they other dimensions? Is that what would be considered another dimension? A higher or lower dimension?
Oh, you're
I thought
exactly
about
right.
that. Barry Webster said he is good for 9 p.m., which that'll be right about now. It's 9:42 here. Maybe here it'll be 8 p.m. out there. So hang on just a second.
Where's he at?
He is in Nebraska, I believe.
It should be the same time as me. It's 8:44 right now.
I thought that'd be about 15 minutes. That'd be cool. I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking Nebraska would be on what is it that comes after Central Time, Rocky Mountain Time, or whatever. But I guess that's only what's west of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Shows how much I know. I answered him and once again completely lost my
I'll be
train of
out
thought.
5 minutes.
Oh,
I'll be out
and what
5
got me
minutes.
thinking about the whole dimensions and all that, I'm sure you've heard of Ron Moorhead with the Sierra Sounds, Quantum Bigfoot, and all that.
Oh
I was
yeah.
reading his book. And I mean, you talk about some heavy reading. There's some stuff in there that it don't
Well,
even stir the hair on top of my head when he goes over it. But it's interesting what I can understand, and he does his best to make it understandable.
right. Well, the guy Carter that I interviewed the other night, he's actually friends with Mr. Moorhead, and he was telling me that an incident that he and his wife had personally, uh, out in Missouri. He said that he had found this place that he had been wanting to check out, and he decided he was going to take his wife with him. Now this is Carter, but anyway, he said he was going to take his wife with him, and he said that just to show you how these things can actually manipulate your mind. He said that they got to this area, and you had to go down into this ravine. And he said about halfway down into the ravine, said his wife got to tell him, "Look, I don't feel comfortable. I want to leave." And said he told her, says, "No, says, uh, I want to show you some of the stuff I found, and it's just right down here." And he something about, he said, I shined my light down into the ravine, and he said, I got to looking. He said, and he said, I kind of looked around. Said, I looked back up on top of the hill where I'd parked at, and he said, I looked back down in the bottom of the ravine, and he said, my car was in the bottom of the ravine. He said, I looked back up, and said, my wife kept bugging me to leave. And he said, I looked back up on top of the hill. He said, I didn't see nothing. I looked back down there, and he said, there my car was. And he said, I told her, I said, look, said, maybe we need to go. So there's something funny going on. And he said, then I shined my light back up on the hill, and my car was back up there where it's supposed to be.
I've heard him tell that the other night when he was talking to him. I'd heard it before. I mean, I don't know how to explain something like that.
I don't either.
And I know I've listened and read enough of Mr. Moorhead stuff. He talks about the incident where it sounded like something was tearing the camp apart, throwing their coolers and stuff around. They look out and nothing's been touched. I don't know if he talked about that at all or not. Or
Right. Yeah, he said he got up the next morning and said they were sitting there in a tent discussing, they were dreading having to get up and gather the horses, and they'd heard the horses run off during the night, all kind of crazy stuff. And Wendell, he said he got up the next morning, walked out of the tent, and there hadn't a thing outside been disturbed at all.
Yeah, the way I understood it, they looked out once it quietened down, and like you said, nothing happened, even though they heard it happen from probably less than 10 foot away. I cannot. How do you wrap your head around something like that? And he tries in his book, Quantum Physics, he's talking about some of the. It's science that science doesn't understand yet, which I've made some comments here lately. I don't think mainstream science and the people that are fans of it are real big fans of me right now. Y'all probably read some of the stuff I've said about heads in the sand and pretending this ain't real for the past 60 years. And
Right.
so I may not be real popular with the science crowd right now. Not that I care. And when I say mainstream science, I'm talking about universities, government. I'm not talking about like guys like Rod Moorhead or Jeff Moldrum or Melba Ketchum. Those folks are out there on the fringe. I don't want to call it the fringe, but they're not mainstream. I mean, if you're investigating Sasquatch, you're not mainstream.
Oh, no, they're on the cutting edge of all this.
Yeah. That's a good way. You put it better than I could. They're the cutting edge.
Right.
They're actually ahead of mainstream science.
Right.
Not that, and I hate to say it, but most of mainstream science is never going to admit that.
No, they keep hollering they're never going to admit it until there's a body.
I'm not sure they'll admit it when there is a body.
No, in my opinion, the government knows these things exist. They've already got the bodies. They're not going to admit it.
And I was talking about that the other day. When I first got into it, I was like, I want to be the guy that proves it. I want to find the proof. Now that I think about it, if I found the proof tomorrow, I'd contact some close personal friends. Be like, look here what I got. But would I ever contact the media or mainstream society? I'm not so sure I would anymore. I might just, like I said, people I trust and keep my mouth shut. Because everybody thinks you're going to be famous if you're the guy that proves Bigfoot's real. But on the flip side of that, it could make you infamous. You go down in history as the guy that got them wiped off the face of the planet. Because once you proved they was real, the government didn't have any other choice but to take them out.
Very
so, like I said, I mean, I'll put my trail cams out and stuff, and who knows, one of these days I might get that picture. I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years now, and I ain't got it yet, but I can walk out there tomorrow and lo and behold, I'd probably send it to you guys. I might post it. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Because really, a trail cam picture ain't going to prove nothing. Everybody would either tell me it's a possum or that I faked it.
And that's the whole thing that's wrong with Bigfoot. with what we consider the Bigfoot world today is, you know, people send in photographs every day. You know, I'm not saying that they're all real, but you know, you take 10,000 photographs sent in of these creatures, you know, there's got to be one out of 10,000 that is actually caught the real thing, but everybody calls them hoaxes.
I sent Barry a picture there. That's a friend of mine on another group, Bigfoot in Canada, sent that in. This, I'm leaning toward that this is a actual Bigfoot because there's hair patches missing in this. The only deal that's off from the quote unquote what the Sasquatch, what they say it all looks like, is the arm length is shorter than what Patty's would be. But if this is a suit, yeah, I mean, it was somebody did an extraordinary job
Yeah.
because you can see the butt cheeks on it, and I mean,
If I can figure out how, do you care if I share that?
I don't. It ain't my picture, but
I saw it somewhere else too in a group or something. It's making the
it's on
rounds.
Bigfoot Canada.
I'll
And
work on it here for a second.
that's the clearest photo, and the one that they post is a little darker image. I enhanced it and lightened it up a little bit, but you can actually see the muscle tone in the calf muscles as it's walking down this hill. So
Yeah. Uh,
and that gets back to the description.
Downloaded to my
There's
computer.
so many different descriptions of Bigfoot, and it's
What's
just
that?
like y'all still there,
Oh yeah.
Audio's acting up. Might be where I've got too many things going on over here while I was trying to.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
your
mean, there's
audio's
so many
acting up.
different descriptions of what
I can hear you
Bigfoot
okay
is,
now.
all the way from the. I got an eyewitness that the one that he saw up here at Mountain Home, the front arms was longer and it had shorter legs, and it actually pulled its legs and everything through more like a gorilla when it was running. To where some say they're running and look just like humans, but more wild. More human appearance. So some's got longer arms and some's got shorter arms. So who's
Well, hey
to say?
guys, that's just like the human species. I mean, we're not. None of us are built alike.
Right.
You know, and
I'm
and, and
I'm 6'5" and 378 pounds. What's yours there, Rick?
I'm 5'8" and 175 pounds. So
So
Are y'all ready for this? I'm 5'7" and 230 pounds.
so them just like us is going to have all kinds of different body shapes. And I mean,
Well, I was
more
going to say,
often they're
I'm
going to be
kind of built like
heavier
a
and bigger.
Sasquatch. I'm as wide as I am tall.
hey,
Yeah,
Barry, just need a little extra higher there, buddy.
What's that?
I said just need a little extra higher there.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Mr. Webster said he is ready. Give me 1 second.
Barry done took himself
Ricky,
off there.
yeah,
He'll
that's
figure it
all
out
right.
here in a minute.
Good time to get a drink anyway.
Oh yeah. We're still showing live on mine.
Yeah, mine too. We're live. It's still going.
Barry will figure everything out here in just a minute.
Oh yeah.
Hey man, I like your cabin you're in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right,
My
here we
son
go.
built this.
I just added Mr. Webster. I can see him at the bottom of the screen, but I don't see him here in the screen. Can you hear us, Mr. Webster? There he is.
Yeah, I sure can. I can hear you.
I hear and see everybody, Ricky.
All right. What happened just a second ago? The technical explanation. Barry clicked the wrong button.
Hey, I
And
told
that was
Wendell
this
you could
Barry,
do
not
that.
that Barry.
Hey Barry, I hate to do it, buddy, but listen, I'm gonna have to back out of here. I got some stuff going on here at the house, but y'all guys have a good conversation, and I'll watch the show here in a little bit. Barry, I appreciate you inviting me on tonight, bud.
All right.
Sorry I'm gonna have to get out of here, but I promised my youngest grandson I'd get out and do a little something with him here. This is Ethan. Uh, but very glad to meet you, buddy. Wendell, you take care.
Yeah, you too.
Mr. Robertson, you be good on your end. Y'all boys have a good show, and I'm out of here.
Have a good night. Y'all be
Have a
careful.
good one, Ricky. God bless you.
Well, he took Wendell off and left me. Oh, there he is. There he's back.
And figures Mr. Webster joins us and my internet starts acting up. I want to thank you so much for being here, Mr. Webster. God bless you.
Yeah, no
It's an
problem.
honor to
Glad to be
have
here.
you. Well, like I told you in the message I sent you, it took me probably 2 months after watching another interview with you to get up the courage to ask you to come on my podcast. But after hearing you talk, I was like, this guy is Native American, Christian, and a Sasquatch researcher. If there's anybody I ought to be talking to and listen, and more importantly, listening to, this is the guy. That really got my attention.
Okay. That's good.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
So
you.
we've been yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
We've been discussing more or less the biblical connection to Sasquatch, what they could be from the Bible, what they might not be, what they can do, what they can't do. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, like I said, you've got that dual Christian and Native American perspective to compare the two, where they connect and cross over and where they don't.
Yeah, that's some good knowledge there that I'd like to hear about.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the question? I'm sorry.
I'm hearing some background or bleed over from something.
Can you
One
turn?
second.
Hang on. Let
It
me
went
see if
away,
that's.
whatever it was.
Hang on. Let me turn my TV off.
Yeah,
Is
that's a
that
lot.
better?
Oh yeah, a lot better.
Good.
Oh, it's a lot better.
So, where are you located at, Barry? Webster.
I'm located in northeast Nebraska on the uh, it's a town called Macy, Nebraska, which is the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. That's our homeland. So
Okay. I
We're
had the
corn huskers.
Nebraska part right.
Yeah, we're corn huskers. So
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
No. Nebraska's one of them states that must be pretty nice because you don't hear too much out of it, unlike some other states which are constantly in the news.
yeah.
Uh, Pretty peaceful out that way.
Oh yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
What's your first
All right.
encounter Sasquatch wise? I mean, or Bigfoot? I mean, what got you into Bigfoot, Barry?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll cut through some of the the riffraff, I guess.
All right.
I probably had an encounter 20, maybe 20 years ago. I'm not too sure to be exact, but um, as a young boy, we grew up with, some people might say legend.
Right.
We grew up with it as being a part of, our native culture. And I like that word, interwoven. We it was always the mindset was is we coexisted. Um, the Omahas, my people, we held them in high regard. So there was a lot of respect, and we were always taught to kind of leave them alone. You know, we
Right.
didn't we didn't chase them. We didn't disrespect them, so to speak. And um, so today, you know, um, and I'm not trying to veer off your question, but today we still take that same approach, uh, respect. Um, you know, um, it's no secret. I tell everybody, that we pray with them as we were told throughout history, and we try and be humble when we go out there, in a humble, respectful way. And I don't know any other way to do it outside of what I was taught.
Right.
Um, what got me into it? Well, I think about 12 years ago, my son challenged me. There was a lot of rumor, or not a lot of rumors, but a lot of reports around town of them coming out just like you wouldn't believe. There was a report every week. So my son challenged me. I I got a hold of my brother Derek, and I said, let's go find out. Let's go find out for ourselves. And he agreed, and um, the rest is history. You know.
Right. Yeah. I kind of know all about that. Yeah, it just works out. Yeah. That's how it
Yeah.
works out with us. Is uh, we got a hunting club that takes young boys hunting and everything, and tries to mentor them and everything. And well, that's how we started out. We're the Arkansas boys, and one winter we was all sitting around, and they was like, "What are we gonna do?" It's a long time till turkey season, and I said, "Well, I've had an encounter back when I was a young teenager, and there'd been reports and everything from around here, and I'm like, well, we could go down to, I don't know if you've heard of it, most everybody has the Boggy Creek area here in Arkansas, and it was to us, to them, it was kind of like a joke, but we ended up running and got to see. I'm saying it's one that crossed the field. It run through a barbed wire fence, crossed the field, and just disappeared into the woods there. And after seeing that, I mean, from then on, everything is just one step led to another step, And once you get word that, hey, that that he's had a Bigfoot encounter and looking to hear about other people's, people call you, and it just progresses. I don't know. Doors
Yeah.
open. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. I've got one question. If I don't ask it, I'm going to burst here.
all right.
I am 1/8 Apache. My grandfather was half Apache, and he passed when I was 10 years old. I never got to ask him about the whole Sasquatch experience, anything. From what I understand, I don't know if you'll be able to tell me if this is true or not, or I figure if anybody can, you can. The Apache apparently had a, for lack of a better term, blood feud with the Sasquatch, almost a kill on sight type mentality towards them. And I've heard one possible origin, I guess would be the word for it, that there was a female Sasquatch that, for whatever reason, they speculated that she lost her own young. And she started coming into the Apache villages and abducting human children. Well, I suppose a human child's probably not quite as durable as a Sasquatch child, young. So they'd find the human Apache children a few days later dead. So the Braves went out and eventually hunted this female Sasquatch down and killed her. And the Sasquatch retaliated against the Apache people, and that's how the feud started. Have you ever heard anything about that? Or
About that particular story?
yeah,
No, no, I haven't. But that doesn't mean, I haven't heard other stories. So, I can't really say that my tribe had that kind of uh, violence, if you want to call it, or that kind of warring going on. Um, and I guess the more I hear other tribes and their stories, the more I appreciate my own because it sounded like my tribe coexisted with them, and there was a lot of trading, bartering, a lot of real, what I would call that real traditional relationship. Um, Again, I don't have a story like that, but I've heard from others that tribes, really caused. There was a lot of warring or friction amongst, the tribes and the Sitonga people. That's what we call them, Sitonga.
Speak to 'em.
I get that right, Tonga?
You broke up a little bit.
Yeah, you broke up.
Did I get that? Did I get the pronunciation correct? See Tonga?
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that pronouncing term for them. Huh. Interesting.
Just a couple of days ago, one of the multiple Bigfoot groups I'm a member of, somebody put a list that had probably about 15 Native American tribes, and each of them's name for Sasquatch and then what it translated to. And I believe I remember seeing Sitonga on there. But
Yeah.
lo and behold, I'm looking for Apache, and it's one of the few that ain't on the list. So I'm just going to have to keep digging.
I hear you.
And on mine, I'm a quarter Choctaw, and theirs is Champay. So, but theirs, they had a bad relationship with. They called it the beast, but they would leave. Like if their hunters would be out in the woods hunting, and they'd have game, they'd have to leave extra game for the Champay so that it wouldn't attack them and stuff. So.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
But
interesting.
But it's interesting as far as today's world is same uh, as the Sasquatch topic is. About 90% of them is they seem to be friendly and just trying to survive, just like we do in the world. I mean, sure, they're going to take advantage if they have a trash pile out there or food easy. They're going to get it, but I mean
Well, sure.
that ain't say just mean to attack people. Now there's like 5% that you hear of accounts to where a Sasquatch has attacked people, and that's either a rogue one that's out on its own, that's been pushed out of a tribe, or something like that. So the majority of the time, these are peaceful beings, just like people. I mean, I'd be scared to go in New York City, so they're just as bad. So,
Yeah, good point.
Oh,
yeah,
you couldn't pay me to live in the big city.
but I guess people
Well, here's a question for you guys. We've all got the.
from the woods.
Go ahead, Wendell.
I was just saying, there's a lot probably that's in the biggest towns like that that had never lived out here in the woods, and I'm at home out here going in the woods wherever I want to go. So it's what you grow up
Well, you
with.
know, if my experiences have done nothing else, I always loved animals and nature and wilderness and all that. But since I've gotten more heavily into the Sasquatch phenomenon, I spend more time in the woods, spend more time in nature. I'm getting more exercise. I've lost 15 pounds over the past year or so. Can't tell you how I lost it, but I lost it.
I
But
found it.
I tell Mom all the time, when I'm out there in the woods, you found it.
Yeah.
When I'm out there in the woods, I feel closer to God. I go to church, but out there is my church. I feel closer to God and Jesus walking through the trees, listening to the birds sing, sun shining on me. I mean, I know some people would call me a heathen or a heretic for saying something like that, that I'm more in church out in the woods than I am sitting on a pew. But like I said, I do both. I just enjoy that more.
Right.
So if nothing else, it's been a blessing. And I almost wonder, maybe it's God's will. Maybe he's like, well, if I want Barry to get out in the woods and reconnect with me, maybe I send him out there looking for Bigfoot and you find Jesus.
No
I
matter what
can,
it is, what on earth God created all. So
yeah,
Well, that's
I
always been my take on it. Whatever Bigfoot may or may not be, he's one of God's creations,
yeah,
just like us.
I agree.
So your tribe, yeah, your tribe considered them as another tribe, another people, not a beast or an animal, but an actual being, a people.
Yeah. Are you asking me that question?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Webster, you.
I, I would have to agree with that. Again, um, I was raised to maybe stay away from them because there was some fear in some of the elders who were sharing that message. I'm sure some of them didn't understand, you know. So as the years went by, you know, the elders were scared for you, so they said stay away from down bottom or don't mess around down there because there's sitongas down there. So these the folklore and the stories, but I can tell you that I agree that based on my experiences that God created everything, and I've had
Yeah.
some what I would call in my own description. I've had some incredible encounters, through God, you know.
Mhm.
So
amen.
Well,
I
if you don't mind me asking, what is the Native American origin of the Sasquatch or the Chitanga? Is there any
Well,
lore that says how they
yeah,
come to be or where they come from? Or
yeah. I've heard several, other tribes describe it. My tribe basically just our definition or our um, history of them is that they come from God. They're blessed by God, and I believe this that they're waiting for the second coming, just like you and I. You know, based on my own research. So we consider them to be hubei, which means holy or sacred, and just blessed by God. You know, I don't know that we have. I've never heard a mythical, magical story about them.
Right.
Some that will ooh and ah you, other than they're hubei. You know,
A lot
Hoope?
of
I've
a lot of the
learned
tribes
a new word today.
that I've done research on and considered the Sasquatch to be like an elder brother, older brother, was here to help guide us. I don't know. That's what some of the research I've done points to.
yeah.
Okay. Trying to think how to word it is. It goes back to what Wendell was talking about, the good ones and the small percentage of bad ones.
Yeah.
In the Bible, Jesus cast demons into swine, pigs, and they ran off the cliff into the sea. So
Hmm.
that leads me to ask, if animals can be possessed by demons, can Chitanga or Sasquatch be possessed, and that's where we get the bad ones from?
Boy, that is that's a deep, complex question, brother. Um,
That
you
goes
know,
back to
I
same thing as us with these crazy shootings and everything. Uh,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
can we?
anybody that wants to pretend evil's not real and running wild, I mean,
yeah, I guess um, I'm sure you can always say that almost anything can happen. You know, when it comes to the so-called evil, but I can tell you that based on my approach, um, I've had some pretty amazing, to say the least, but for the most part, very calm, spiritual kind of encounters, and that's been a blessing. I they don't get. I've never had an aggressive encounter, I should say. So I can't really speak to that, but to answer your question, I think that anything's possible. You know,
Right.
well, another thought that crossed my mind, I think me and Wendell went over this before, is somebody asked about the number of Bigfoot sightings that happen around graveyards or cemeteries. I said, well, stop and think what else would hang out in a graveyard or cemetery? Possibly evil spirits. And
yeah,
the good book tells me not to traffic with spirits, so I don't. I don't ghost hunt. I don't go to haunted houses. I don't traps around cemeteries out of respect, if nothing else. But what I
yeah,
was thinking is, could something else impersonate a Sasquatch or Chitanga? You think you're seeing one of them, but it's actually a demon or a spirit or a trickster, whatever, impersonating one.
That's back to possibly. Who knows? Like we've talked also, if it's the Sasquatch or Satanga or actual being, the best place to hunt is at cemeteries because the deer come to eat the fresh grass. there's usually nut trees there where there's squirrels and stuff. So it's a really good place to hunt. So
The
could be several
audio.
different things. Oh, we lost Barry, the other Barry.
Oh, what's going on?
He must have had bad. There he comes.
You guys still there?
Yep,
Yeah,
right here.
it looks like Bama Bigfoot. He said tried to watch, but the connection is buffering too bad. Hi, Barry. He said,
I wasn't sure if he was talking to me or you.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure either.
I
I don't think a lot of people realize we've got two berries.
yeah, that can get confusing.
Hmm. Well, Wendell, did you have any questions you wanted to ask? I don't want to hog the time here.
Well, I was just uh, wondering on the connection of the Bible. Do you believe that it was Sasquatch, or how do you pronounce that again? The y'all
Sitonga?
Sea Tonga. Uh, do they have any connection with through like a lot of people believe they were Nephilim or the offspring of them? Uh, Barry has come on an interesting deal that uh, I've kind of researched more on it here in the last few days. His in the Bible they talk about troglodytes, and they were a beast person that lived in caves and was quicker than horses. The Bible says there was a beastly type people that lived in caves. Uh, Also, when you come on down to Esau, it says that he was born covered in red hair and that as thick as a garment. And that's unusual as far as being a baby and covered in that much hair. Well, one of after he grows up and everything, everybody knows all the Bible stories. One of his wives was one of these troglodytes, and he ends up uh, being a man of the wilderness and going and to live. It's the Bible says KJV anyway in Mount Seir. So, with do you believe there's any connection there that's referring to these or not?
You know, I'm going to respect. I'm going to respect the Bible you're reading. You know,
Yeah,
I don't care to get into a debate about you know
right.
which Bible you're reading. So I'm gonna respect that. I would have to agree. Now, I think there's a scripture um, in the Book of Mormon, I believe it is, and I can't quote the actual chapter, but it says, "If any man lack wisdom, let him ask," you know, and
Right.
upbraideth not. And so I used a lot of that because, like you said earlier, God created all things. And
Mm-hmm.
God says, if you humble yourself to that effect anyway, that I will give you the mysteries of this life. Um, you know, I've been blessed, and I hope that doesn't sound arrogant, you know. I've been able to experience these guys, you know, and I probably said some things about them that have have just made people think, what the heck is this guy talking about, you know?
Right.
And so, yes, I do. Yes, I do. You know, if you read that in your Bible, then I agree. Um, my 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 experiences are when we go out, we um, we place high regard. It's a spiritual journey for us. It's not something we do like hunters do. The good old boys. We're gonna go out and we're gonna go catch us a Bigfoot.
Right.
You know, it's kind of a release for me. I pray, so it is serious business for me. It's respectful, and so to answer your question, yes, I do agree that somehow, you know, they had to maybe serve out this curse, you know, and and they'll be released from that after they serve their test. And you know, I heard a gentleman say, "Live and let live." You know, I respect everybody's opinion. At the same time, you know, I've had some encounters where I know that God played a big part in that encounter. So it's really hard for me to talk about that because of the secular world. You know, there's a lot of people that don't believe in God,
Right.
and so you know it you know I I just tell it like it is, and you know um, I let maybe the work speak for itself. You know,
Right. I understand. Yeah.
yeah. So I hope that didn't come off any kind of way.
Sometimes
You
it's
know.
hard to talk about God, but no, 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 no. I was going to say sometimes it's hard to talk about God, but I'm sure there's other times people that know me wish I'd shut up about God and Bigfoot
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not a backwards person. Like you said, I'll just tell it like it is. You ask me about God or the Bible. You might not like my answer, but I'll give it to you best of
Yeah.
my ability. And I'm sure I've made some people mad and hurt some feelings, but I'd rather hurt the feelings. I mean, hell's real and hell's hot. It'll hurt a lot worse than whatever I said. And it'd be kind of on us if we don't tell them. Now, I know a lot of Native American tribes, from what I've been able to study and read and follow, they see how I want to word this. And if I'm ever wandering into something that's taboo or off limits, just tell me to shut up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
a lot of the tribes seem to imply that Sasquatch and Chitanga, whatever their particular name for the form might be, are like half in the physical world, half in the spiritual world. Which I can see that as any creature with a soul, just like us, we're in the physical and spiritual world too. Just like I said earlier, ever since the beginning, we've been in a physical battle and a spiritual battle. And I quite can't quote it word for word, but we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities of darkness and powers of evil on high and stuff like that. I mean, we're part spirit, part physical, and got a foot in both worlds kind of ourselves.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Did
Correct.
are you asking me a question?
Do you agree with that part about it being one foot in the physical world, one in the spirit world?
You know, Barry, I always try to speak to my experience. And one time my brother filmed me doing an interview. And I get it, you know. I see some people say, if you believe in the woo, you know, I get invited to all these pages to like or to join. And then I read that some people say, you know, the woo, if you believe in the woo, you know, you're not invited or something to that effect. But I have to tell you that let me kind of do another a comparison. I have yet to hear somebody tell me that their eyes rotate. they rotate. I've saw that firsthand. Me and my cousin and my niece. And so I guess, does that make it gospel for me? Well, I've heard a lot of horror stories about people being attacked, but I haven't heard the details like I've experienced. And so one time, um, I heard these footsteps about at least 60 yards coming towards me. And there was there was no physical body. So what I can tell you is that that couldn't have been. Um, I have no doubt in my mind that that they can cloak. And so to answer your question, you know, anybody who, let me say this, anybody who would disagree with my comment about that or my experience, you ain't really a squatcher. You know, that's how much I believe would happen. There's been plenty of times where I believe they were cloaked and they came around. Um, in fact, he walked right up to me and you could see the depressions in the grass. So I believe I believe that what you said. Now, I don't own a podcast. I don't I'm not in a position to sit on my platform and say that, but I can tell you with boots on the ground, you know, they can go into both realms or different dimensions. I have no doubt about that.
Well, I tend to agree because we were talking earlier. I was talking about in the Bible. It talks about heaven and hell. Well, heaven and hell are not here on earth. So is that what we would consider another dimension or another plane? That could very well be two different terms for the same thing. And I'm not saying they come from heaven or hell. There could be other dimensions out there, or planes, or
Yeah.
whatever term you want to fill that blank with. So I keep an open mind. I don't even call it the woo. Like I was telling Wendell and Ricky, who left just as you come on. I've been reading Ron Moorhead's Quantum Bigfoot. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
No, I'm not. I've
Well,
heard
he
of it.
discusses quantum physics, and it's just science that science doesn't understand yet. Well, same thing with these beings. They can have abilities that are just a science we don't understand yet. They could be perfectly natural. Cloaking could be perfectly natural. We just don't know how they do it yet. Is it because they have I forget what it's called, the hair that bends light around it? And say if they're standing in front of a oak tree, their hair will be the same color and pattern as an oak tree. There's other animals, octopus, some lizards can do it, camouflage real well, and their hair and skin and stuff, adapts to their background. So what we call, you may be very well could be completely wrecked. They could become completely invisible.
I don't know how they do
It's
it. I
just
don't know
something we don't understand yet.
if you would call it cloaking or whatnot, but I know Jesus walked into plane and out of plane, so I mean there's a different dimensions or whatever you want to call it, but it was possible for him, and the angels do it. So who knows? I'm one that I listen to
Well,
your
of course,
testimony,
I believe there's angels around us all the time.
you was there, Barry, and that was your encounter, and you know what happened. I mean, I ain't one to disagree or anything like that. I like to take a person's encounter and learn from it, and that's what I'm at the point is just continue learning. Have I had anything happen like that? I try to think back, and maybe I'm just not sensitive enough. All the let's see, I had one, two, three, four encounters over my whole life, and all of them's been just by chance, and it was kind of in your face encounter stuff within. Uh, One of them at OART was within 50 feet of us. It screamed and jumped off a bluff. Maybe that they would have been all around us and I never noticed it or something. But I hadn't had no uh, footsteps or anything like that. But like I said, I learned from other people's encounter and take it as that hey, that's fact until I can prove it different. So that's the way that everybody should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take him, Mr. Webster, at his word. I mean,
Yeah,
Wendell's heard me say this before. I will believe somebody if they tell me they saw a flying purple people eater until they give me a reason not to believe them.
mm-hmm.
I can't tell them what a flying purple people eater is, but if they say they saw it, I wasn't there. I don't know what they saw or what they didn't see. And like I say, I will give people what I think. I won't tell them what they think. And I'll give them my opinion, but I won't give them their opinion. And I'll respect their opinion. That's why I don't really even call it the woo, so to speak. It's just something we don't understand yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
I mean, I think this entire community or field or whatever you call it, cryptozoology, if more people would kind of take that attitude of, I wasn't there, I don't know what happened. You're telling me what happened. Instead of, they call it critical thinking, but I think it's gotten to a point. There's no thinking involved. It's just critics
Mm-hmm.
criticizing.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's the kind of comment right there that makes me not too popular with the mainstream science crowd myself. But uh, you got any more questions, Wendell?
I can't think of none off the top of my head right now.
Did you have anything you wanted to ask us, Mr. Webster?
Yeah.
No, not not right off the top of my head. I was I was pretty busy today,
All right.
so just not off the top of my head. So, Window, do you have your own group or what? Did you
Yeah,
mention a group?
I have
The audio broke up on me.
do what? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
My
I can hear you.
audio's acting up. I couldn't understand either. I can now.
All right. Yeah, I can
Something about a
understand.
group.
Yeah, he asked if I had a group. I have a group that we call the Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel, and that's I think we got like
Okay.
1,200 members, and that's just for everybody to post sightings or anything like that. But we have my actual home group here that helps is called the Arkansas Boys, and like I said, we do everything from hunting and fishing and helping youth to going out and searching when people call us and has had an encounter or sighting. We go out and video them and uh, try to take documentation. And a couple times we've actually been called to help them where they've had so many encounters and stuff. Like one guy was having his chicken stolen. The whole chicken house was ripped open about 3 times a year. And I mean, he was upset about that. And I told him, well, that's just a food source for them. They don't see it as, hey, I'm stealing this. They're seeing it, hey, this is free food. So we ended up just putting up a lot of red lights, motion lights. It's instead of the normal white light, it's red bulbs, and that ended his problem. And they kick on by motions. He said they kick on a lot during the nights and everything, but that ended his problem with his chicken houses getting ripped up so far. So we tried to help people and solve the problem without having to be uh, too dramatic or get a war started or anything like that. I mean, you got to look at it as they're just trying to live just like we are.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my attitude. I believe we've got them here on our property and the surrounding area. Live and let live, you know. I was out in the woods one day and I just kind of made I wouldn't call it a speech, and I had no idea if there was one close enough to hear me when I did it. But I was like, you know, I don't mind having you around. Mom and the dog are off limits. Don't bother my mother. Don't bother my dog. Other than that, there's room out here for all of us. And after that, the house slapping kind of slowed down, and we put some light, like you said, some solar powered lights out, and I think that helped. But I mean, as long as they don't bother my mother, don't bother my dog, like you said, Mr. River, I feel honored to think that for whatever reason, I'm the one they've kind of revealed themselves, me and my mother. It's an honor. I mean, you're getting
Yeah,
to experience something that, what, maybe 5% of the population ever get to experience, something like that. I wouldn't harm a hair on their head if I had the chance. Now, I'd love to be able to, well, I was talking earlier, on one hand, I'd love to be able to find the proof if it would lead to protecting them. But on the other hand, if you found the proof tomorrow and it led to the government doing the same thing they did to the Native American tribes, either shoving them off on a reservation or in a zoo or wiping them out, then no, I don't want to be the guy that led to that, you know? So it's kind of you go backwards and forwards. I'd love to be able to prove it, if for no other reason to shut the critics up. On the other hand, I don't want to prove it because I'm afraid of what might come from proving it.
I got
hmm,
a question. We like I said, we look for peaceful means to resolve any problem or just take their account. But while you're out in the wilderness, do you carry any kind of protection, handgun, or anything like that, Barry? Weapon?
no, no, I
He's talking Mr. Rich.
yeah, I take we take great pride in that, and any of our guests that come with us, we ask them not to, have it under their coat or, we. So I've been, again, we've been pretty fortunate and blessed, to be able to do that, and to this day, I don't even take a light, you know. Um, I encourage my guests to bring a light just so they can see where they're walking, but no, we don't carry any handguns or anything. So,
I respect that. I just I've just run into other stuff besides Bigfoot too. That I always carry something, but that may be one of the reasons that I've had just brush encounters. They see
yeah,
it or know it, or
Mm-hmm.
but I was just wondering.
yeah,
Well, Wendell knows already that I don't carry a firearm either. At the most, I'll take like a machete or a buck knife, and that's as much to protect myself from snakes and stuff as anything. And I tell people, and this is where a lot of researchers and people in general call me crazy. I said, I've got my faith to protect me from whatever's out there.
yeah.
And so
There you
far,
go.
it's brought me back every time.
Yeah. Amen.
And I tell people, like I said earlier, when I'm down there in the woods, I can feel Jesus and Papa right beside me. I almost feel like if I turned my head quick enough, I'd see them. And like I said, people hear me say stuff like that, and they're like, "Okay, Barry's finally lost it." But let them think it. I mean, I don't think I know.
Right.
I know as sure as this desk is I'm leaning on, they're there.
Oh yeah, I know they're there too.
Much as I love to, I might not be able to reach out and touch them physically, but they're there. You can't
Yeah.
convince me otherwise. Now, I wanted to ask a question. This is one of them. This is something you don't want to talk about. I don't know. You hear reports of the lights, the balls of light in the woods. Some people say they see them with Sasquatch or Chitanga or just by themselves. Have you had any experiences with those? Or I've had a couple on my trail cams and stuff that possibly, I mean, it was some kind of light. I'm not sure what. And if
Yeah.
you have had any experiences, offer anything as to what those are? Or...
You know, we had this group. Um, we arrived at one of my hot spots, and the group pulled up facing us. And while they were getting ready to get off the vehicle, this this light, as you're talking about, probably as big as a stability ball, a fitness stability ball or a beach ball. It appeared right above, that vehicle, and the interesting thing about it is it was it had a real calming feeling, even though it blew us out of the water. There was this calm feeling, and it lit up. It lit up for about maybe 5 seconds, and then as it disappeared, it just kind of made, you ever the noise when a bomb blows up, but real low, a low tone to it, kind of. I don't know if you heard me, but it just disappeared into itself, into a smaller ball, and just was gone. And so there was a couple other times that we saw that, and we got one on our trail cam. I think there's a direct correlation, to them, and it's another way that they travel. I believe that. I believe that.
Well, I know I did a little research into it, and I can't remember which tribe it was. One of the translations for I can't remember the word, but meant basically either he who follows behind or he who walks behind or something like that. And just I I got a high school education. I use common sense as much as I can. I was like, well, what's he walking behind or following behind? And they were referring to Sasquatch or Chitanga. I was like, well, they wouldn't call him that if they didn't follow or walk behind something or someone. But I never could. You know how it is with a lot of folklore and stuff. You get bits and pieces of a story, and you can never find the rest. Have you ever heard that term? Or
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. the we were told that's part of who they are. They're Hubei, and they're closely tied to God, basically. Without,
okay, so they're walking behind or following behind God. Okay,
yeah.
makes
So
sense.
without trying to sound like a magical, mystical Native American folklore story, that's just the simple truth.
Well, that's what I was overthinking right there. I hate to admit it, but it never dawned on me they're walking behind or following God or Jesus. I was thinking they're following the tribe or they're following the game or
Yeah,
just I overthought it, which we all do it.
yeah.
Now, the other day I was out and I heard a sound I'd never heard before, and I've told Wendell about this.
Okay.
It sounded like a cross between a growl and a purr. And as I did it, I looked out through the trees quite a distance from me, and I saw something that was just either a motion blur or almost like a heat distortion, like you see coming up off a highway or the desert floor. That wavy, I guess you know what I'm trying to describe. Have you ever had anything sounds like that or look like that?
Yeah, I've had I got a hot spot, and I've had, you know, I'm not sure if I'm understanding you correctly, but one time um, from the timberline, it's almost like there was a mist that came towards me, and it landed right in front of me. And as I had witnesses there with me, um, I'm not sure if I even understand, what you're asking, but I've heard what I think is something similar. That I've heard deep guttural growls. In fact, I was just asked that earlier. What do you hear when you're out there? And I've heard this deep guttural growl. I've heard the classic holler. Um, I've heard one that sound like maybe um, mm, I had I brought my thermal out when I promised I wouldn't do any of the technology. So he reminded me. So, maybe I'm not understanding your question again, but I think I've heard something familiar to what you're talking about at one time.
Well, I was gonna say I've heard a lot of people describe it as the predator sound. They compare it to the noise of Predator made in the movies. But
Yeah,
that wasn't quite what I heard. It wasn't the crocodile sounding, whatever you want to call that. This was, I mean, I guess I could see where other people would call it that if they didn't have anything else to compare it to. Like I said, it was just like a cross between a purr and a growl. And I never,
yeah,
other than that distortion or blur or whatever I saw going through the trees, it
yeah,
wasn't a mist or anything like you described. It was more like just movement.
yeah,
And
We got
Wendell, he
the
told me that
growl.
he thinks maybe I was too close to some young,
Hmm.
and the adult made that noise or that movement to distract me and get my attention on them long enough for the young to get away from me,
Get away or move out. Or,
which makes as much sense as anything to me.
yeah,
we actually, it sounds just basically what you're describing on one of our videos when we was at Sillamore, but it was at night, and we was moving around trying to push them to where we could get better video, and we heard that growl from the woods to the side of us, that growl and deep deep sound and that purring sound, and that's when we indicated that we pulled out of there because I mean it was all around us. So
yeah,
Well, I did,
it,
like I
when
told
you
you, I
hear
did the
that,
same thing. I got my card out of my camera and I left.
yeah,
when you hear that, it's
It
time
was
to
it was
leave.
unnerving, is how I would describe it.
yeah.
They're upset for some reason. Either you're too
Like
close,
Mr. Webster said, I've never had an experience. I'm sorry,
I
we got a
just said
delay or something. Wendell was talking, I come right on top of him.
I just said
Sorry
that
about that.
you was too close or something's going on and they're not liking it and they're letting you know to either move or they're gonna move out of the area or something to hold your ground or move back. From what I.
Like I said, they didn't have to tell me twice.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like Mr. Webster said, I've never had an experience where I just absolutely feared for my life, like it was hostile or aggressive. I've had a couple that kind of creeped me out, unnerved me. We was talking about the cloaking. I had one where I was down there in the woods praying and squatching. All of a sudden, it's the stereotypical. Everything just went silent, even the bugs. And just common sense, I was like, okay, because the crows had been alerting all day. They'd follow me through the woods. You know how crows do. They'll literally follow you and alert to where you're at. Even the crows stopped. I was like, okay, there's somebody or something else out here with me that they're more afraid of than they are of me. And I just got that being watched feeling. And it was unnerving. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm leaving. You can have it. It's yours for the day, this holler. Any other day, I felt just fine in there. So I turn around, I start hiking back, and I just get that creepy feeling there's something behind me. There's something following me. There's something watching me. And the big buck knife, it's a 7 3/4 inch blade stainless steel. I was even trying the trick holding it up, using it for a mirror, trying to watch over my shoulders. And I never could see anything. But until I broke the tree line and got on up through the field towards the house, I got the distinct feeling there was something following me, stalking me, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, I wasn't terrified. I don't think I was zapped, for lack of a better word. Everybody talks about infrasound. I don't think it was that, but I just believe there was something around that for whatever reason I couldn't put eyes on. And it didn't want me there. It's like you said, I was just respectful. Hey, if you don't want me here, I'm leaving. So, like I said, you won't, you talk about not having a platform. Anytime you want to come on this one, my show, you'll be welcome. And you won't get disrespected here because I got a little button down here at the bottom. The second somebody disrespects you, I'll shut them down like a bad habit. I'm not afraid to do it. You won't get disrespected here.
Well, I appreciate that. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Like I said, I've been watching some of your stuff on your page. Like I said, I was just like, well, here's the guy I've been looking for, a Christian, a Squatcher, and a Native American that can help tie it all together. Because Wendell knows I always refer to it as connecting the dots.
Right.
Is what we're trying to do.
Okay.
And maybe some of the dots aren't even there to connect, but that won't keep me from trying.
I hear you. I hear you. Hey Barry.
Yeah.
After we're done here, if you and Wendell want to join me, I want to share something with you, but
Yeah, I'd be honored.
not on your show.
Okay, that's fine. I can end the broadcast anytime and we'll just be in the studio. Won't be live, just be the three of us. Or we can go
Okay.
to Messenger or
Yeah, let's go to
whatever.
Messenger.
Fine with me.
Okay. Well, we can wrap it up on that if you want. And everybody have a good night. Appreciate the people that watched us live. Anybody watches on replay, I'll post the show on, if you like, all our channels and pages. Put it on all our pages where everybody can get a chance to see it, what we discussed and everything. Everybody have a good one. Have a good Memorial Day weekend. Like I said, remember it's more than barbecues and swimming pools.
Right.
I made a kind of a speech at the beginning. Wendell and Ricky got to see it. If you want, you can go back later and watch it about Memorial Day to me. I just kind of, me beating my chest a little bit. But anyway, so we'll check out of here. Everybody have a one good one. God bless you. Pray for us. We'll pray for you. Pray for each other. Pray for the world. We all need it more than we probably know. Definitely more than we know. I mean, like I said, turn the news on every day, you'll find a reason to pray. I'll thank God every day when He wakes me up and take it from there. So, everybody have a good one. God bless you and see you next time.
See y'all.
You bet.